Hello, everyone. My name is Todd Wright, the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Progress DataDirect. Welcome to our Cloud Migration Success Stories, PruTech on Scaling Data Access and Security webinar. I will be your host and moderator today. And now to introduce you to our speakers today. I am joined by our speakers, Dennis Bennett and Barin Sani. Dennis Bennett has over 20 years of experience in working with companies to help solve their data connectivity challenges. In the past, Dennis has worked as an application developer, DBA, and QA engineer. At Progress Software, he is a principal sales engineer for the data connectivity and integration products. Barin Sani serves as the Executive Vice President of Enterprise Technology Services at PruTech Solutions, where he leads the private sector division. In this role, he oversees sales, delivery, operations, and product development, bringing extensive experience in areas such as human-centric design, cloud-first architecture, and cloud-native applications. Barin's primary goal is to accelerate digital transformation for enterprise clients. His career spans contributions to organizations such as TIAA-CREF, Bank of America, and Hortonworks, underscoring his commitment and ability to drive technological innovations that contribute to their growth and success.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's get right to it, gentlemen. Let's start with a little bit about PruTech. As many people know, you're a very successful company with a 25-year history. Can you share a bit of what has made you successful and some of what your main offerings entail, Barin?
Absolutely. Thanks, Todd. We started this journey about 25 years ago. Our founder came from AT&T Bell Labs, where they were creating programming languages, writing books on data modeling. And soon after that, our founder started working with investment banking firms in the Wall Street area and expanded that business. Here we are 25 years later. We are about a $100 million organization. We have delivered successfully several digital transformation efforts for our clients. I'll just take a minute and share at least one of those. PruTech was recognized by the New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio during the COVID time for enabling remote learnings for students in the New York area in 1 month, enabling that remote learning for millions of users, enabled us to earn that recognition with Bill de Blasio during one of the COVID briefings, where 4 companies were recognized: Apple, Microsoft, Google, and PruTech. That was a proud moment. There are several stories like that, and it just has been an exciting journey. PruTech is an IT services organization. We offer IT services around cloud migration, cloud application development, cybersecurity, as well as custom application development. I'm excited to share more about this use case that we have done for one of our enterprise customers.
Okay, excellent. And that's really exciting news about being recognized within New York City and within only 3 other companies mentioned. So congratulations on that. You had a good segue for me. You had mentioned security and privacy towards the end of your introduction. And so that got me curious. Your customers often deal with very sensitive data, I'm assuming. I was curious, both for myself and the audience today, how do you help your customers ensure that the individual users really only see that the data that they're entitled to see based on the job roles are being funneled correctly to the right people at organizations using your software?
Absolutely, Todd. As we all know that we live in a world where external as well as internal threats from IT standpoint have been rising for the last several years. Along with that, the need to be compliant with regulatory compliance requirements makes it necessary for enterprise organizations to ensure that the data is protected, both to serve the customers well as to protect the brand. We have done significant amount of work in that space, including development of the solution that we will discuss today that enables enterprise organizations to provide that fine-grained control over access to data based on access policies at the enterprise level. That means we can enforce enterprise level authorization across different systems, across different applications and databases to ensure that the users that are accessing the data has the need to know, business need to know, as well as access to that data as they are working through their activities for the organization.
So you had mentioned different applications and different databases. And once again, you piqued my interest. Has having your customers, cloud is nothing new, but there's still a concern amongst organizations around the world. Has having your customers move their applications and data to the cloud made your goal of providing secure and scalable access to the data more complex, or is it business as usual, such as on premises? Or share a little bit for our audience on that, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. As we all know, pretty much every organization, enterprise organization, is going through a cloud journey with systems both on-prem as well as on cloud. That complex architecture actually makes it almost necessary to ensure that there are guardrails around how these applications are secured. There has to be consistency across different systems and methodologies that are being followed to ensure the security. And having this complex architecture actually makes it more difficult in some ways to meet those security standards. And that is why working with our clients, understanding that requirement, and then coming up with solution that can not only provide the tactical solution of meeting these requirements for one or two application, but can also scale up as the infrastructure and number of applications in cloud go up. It is very, very important. We have worked with enterprise clients to ensure that we can help them in this cloud migration journey, because most of these organizations are under mandates from senior executives, management, boards to meet those security standards. And again, I'm very excited to share more information on this as we continue this discussion.
Absolutely. So with this being a joint webinar today with Progress and PruTech, it begs the question, what led you to Progress DataDirect? I know data connectivity is obviously important in this day and age for really all initiatives that organizations may have out there. And just curious a little bit, why Progress DataDirect, and what are some of the things that you're doing with Progress?
Absolutely, Todd, that's a great question. Why don't I show you a little bit about the product before I address that question? Is it okay if I share my slides? Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so Todd, we have just a few slides. What I would like to do is just go through a couple of slides and share the high-level information of what the product is, what it does, followed by a quick demo. And then I would like to circle back on that question because Progress has been a great partner and the driver behind the success of this, the solution that we have developed. So we'll quickly look at the solution that PruTech has developed, a quick case study. What is that solution at a high level, and what enabled that solution, followed by the value to the client. So at a very high level, what we have done is we have created an industry agnostic gateway for essentially applications, any kind of application, to enforce fine-grained encryption of data in use. We have done this for one of our clients that is a leading healthcare insurance provider in the United States. The main driver behind this initiative was the desire and the requirement from this organization to move hundreds of applications that they have from on-prem to cloud. Once that decision was made, their senior management and board mandated for the application teams to ensure that the sensitive data elements are protected, both from data at rest standpoint as well as data in use. So as the users are looking at the information, the organization wanted to ensure that the central access management policies come into play to ensure that only the users with privileged access can view the sensitive information in clear text. So that is at the very high level what the use case was. Again, the challenge, as I mentioned, was this need to migrate hundreds of applications from on-prem to cloud. Now, in order to enforce a fine-grained encryption, fine-grained tokenization, and masking of data, which can be done in many different ways, by the way, but making the changes to these applications individually to enforce a functionality like that, as you can imagine, would have taken a huge amount of time. Not to mention the amount of risk taken on by these application team would have been huge as well. So PruTech worked with our client to develop this component, which we call Secure Database Gateway, which essentially serves as an ODBC gateway, ODBC JDBC gateway, which sits in between the application and database and seamlessly enforce the data encryption policies and rules based on who's accessing the data. We developed this solution through open source technologies, and the solution has been in production for over 3 years now. As you can imagine, the results being the organization, our client, was able to meet their requirements, making their applications more secure, but without spending months and months of effort in order to make those applications secure, right? With that said, as we move forward, we will look into more details of how the solution works. This simple diagram provides a very high-level view of what the gateway does. These blue components in the middle are the building blocks of the secure database gateway. As you look at this diagram from the left-hand side, an application, instead of reaching out to database directly, goes through our secure database gateway, which supports JDBC protocol, ODBC, REST, and ADU.NET to provide similar connectivity like a database would. So connecting to a secure database gateway essentially became literally a matter of changing one line within these applications. Secure database gateway in turn connects to the central access policy servers and other identity access management systems as needed to retrieve the user information, the policy information, and applies that knowledge as it accesses the data within the database. So as the data is moving between application and database, essentially what secure database gateway is doing is inspecting all the queries that are being executed and then enforces the fine-grained encryption mechanism based on the policy very seamlessly. And as mentioned here, we support all the different ANSI SQL operations. We provide column level encryption, provide support for T-SQL, which is stored procedures and such. So it has really provided a mechanism to our client to cover a broad number of use cases, broad number of applications to provide this elevated level of security feature without having to make significant amount of effort and time into making the application changes. The next few slides, couple of slides, I will go relatively quickly. Essentially, we have built this solution with all the enterprise-ready features. As you can imagine, an enterprise organization will potentially have hundreds of applications, if not more. They will end up needing a solution like this with more than one instances. So having the ability to manage and monitor these instances from a central web-based management console is almost a must. So we have not only the gateway component that sits between the application to provide those security features, there's also a central component through which these gateway components can be provisioned, can be managed, monitored, configuration updates can be done, and so on and so forth. Continuing on those enterprise-ready features, we were also able to meet requirements and features around high availability and failover. As you can imagine, business continuity is extremely important when it comes to business critical applications within enterprise environments. And the way these solutions are built, we can provide seamless failover from one gateway to another. If there is an error issue or infrastructure problems causing one of these instances to go down. This is where I would like to talk about what was the main driver for us to choose Progress Start. This block diagram, if you will, represents all the building blocks that are part of our solution. All of the green components here, the green boxes are the capabilities or the features that we were able to leverage directly from the Progress component. As this solution receives different kind of queries to inspect the data and apply the encryption based on the policies, we have been able to build all of this on top of open access servers, utilizing the database drivers that come with open access servers. But even beyond that, just looking at our development activities and how the solution was ultimately delivered to the client, we were able to leverage a lot of the best practices and documentation and methodologies from Progress around how the environments are set up, how the development tools around this component are built. We were also able to leverage a lot of the features and scripts that are available around performance testing, functional testing. Our team, PruTech team, built a lot of these features on top of what Progress provides, and that was really the main reason, Todd, why we decided to work with Progress. But at the end of the day, the solution that we were able to build provided great value to our customer. Our customer was able to accelerate their journey to cloud, not to mention the fact that the way they were able to meet this data security and privacy requirements in a consistent manner that alleviated a lot of issues that typically happen when application teams try to implement their own security solutions. This significantly reduced the cost. It would have taken months and months of work, which brought it down to essentially changing one single line within the application to introduce a feature like this. Along with that, of course, speed to market and this centralized management and monitoring capability also allows this customer to scale the solution from one application to hundreds of applications. With that, Todd, I will hand it over back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a very thorough answer, and I'm sure our audience appreciated it as well. One thing I do want to remind the audience, we just went over a lot there, and we're going to dedicate some time to your questions at the end. So if there's anything that you just saw and you want to learn more about, we will definitely take your questions at the end about that. So Dennis, we definitely have not forgotten about you, and I have a question for you in regard to Progress DataDirect. As many people know, there are several different options organizations can use for data connectivity, not only in the market, but from Progress DataDirect. Can you give our audience a little insight on those options? And for a company like PruTech and others, what are some of the things you listen for to determine the best solution fit for their connectivity needs that they have to really support their programs that they're moving forward?
Yeah, thanks, Todd. As you know, Progress DataDirect, our primary focus is providing data connectivity. And really, it's just a question of listening to the use case and the requirements as they come to us. Sometimes it's just straight connectivity to databases, whether it's relational, whether it's big data or cloud data warehouses and things like that. If it's just straight ODBC or JDBC connectivity to a single or a couple of sources, really the best fit is probably going to be one of our drivers created exactly for that purpose. Sometimes we see stuff a little more complex, typically in a hybrid environment where maybe the application is in the cloud and the data is on-prem, or the other way around, or even kind of multi-cloud solutions. And if we hear stuff like that, we'll start asking questions to see if hybrid data pipeline might be a good fit for that. It allows things like cloud to ground connectivity without requiring a VPN, which can be very helpful for our customers. We see things like often, particularly in just direct corporate customers, where they want to display their data inside of Salesforce, leveraging Salesforce Connect. Hybrid data pipeline is able to OData enable multiple different sources and allow this to happen. And all of this is done in a way with very granular controls as far as what people can do, and even things like enforcing limits and throttling. But sometimes we hear stuff even beyond that, and that was the case with talking to Biren initially when PruTech came. If we hear things like absolute requirement to be able to intercept SQL and really augment the capabilities of an existing driver and an existing database to do things like intercept a SQL, potentially implement row-level security by enforcing a filter, and all this just to ensure that a user can only see the data that they are entitled to see. Even if they send in a wide open SQL statement to see more data, by intercepting and modifying the SQL, it's possible to fence them into the data they're able to see. And things like intercepting the result set, which is exactly, what PruTech is doing also. Often, some data is only for users with elevated security capabilities. Otherwise, the data might be masked. Sometimes that's just straight, asterisk. Sometimes it's format preserving encryption. But all that can be done with open access. And we see that PruTech did a great job with this. And actually, it was I really enjoyed working with these guys, 3 years ago and so forth. But the Open Access SDK provides most of what is required for a driver, whether it's ODBC, JDBC, or ADO.NET. The only thing we allow you to do is through the custom code, through the interface provider, do things like, in this case, intercepting SQL or modifying and masking data in the result set. And all this is done, as Baron said, when a user logs in, they're able to call out to a service that, basically says this user has this role and is able to see this data and can't see that data. And then from there, they're able to enforce it through open access and the product they built on top of it. So when I hear requirements like that, the SQL interception, the result set modification, at that point, it really lends itself well to open access. And so it's fairly straightforward. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, extremely helpful. Thank you very much. And I definitely echo your sentiments about PruTech being very enjoyable to work with, not only as one of our customers, but on this webinar as well. And with that said, I believe PruTech, we're going to show a little bit about your solution and what you're doing with Progress DataDirect and how data connectivity is key.
Absolutely, Todd. But I just want to resonate the sentiment. It has been absolutely great working with Progress, Dennis, yourself, Susan, everyone. Just all in all, great partner to work with. Thank you for everything. Yes, let me share my screen. We will show this demo. All right, perfect. So let's jump into the demo, Todd. This is a sample application. It's a demo application. It's a financial use case. And the intent of this demo is to show the end result of secure database gateway that's built on Progress Open Access Server and how it can secure the data, right? I have two instances of the application open. There's this first one where I'm logged in as myself, Birender Sani. We also have another instance of this application where we have this user, John Doe. And between the two users, we have Birender Sani, myself, as the user with the elevated privilege, right? The whole objective of this demo is to show that users with the right level of access should be able to access the sensitive information, the privileged information, so that we can provide the data security and privacy to the end customers. With that said, let me just show you John Doe's view. Again, there's a lot going on here. We will not worry too much about this view. Let's go to this other screen where we can look at some records. And again, it's a simple screen where we see some information, right? We see the first name, last name, mobile information, address, email, and SSN. As you can see, most of this information is legible. But when we look at emails and SSN, there's a bunch of gibberish, which basically is encrypted value of the actual emails and SSN. Dennis earlier mentioned format preserving encryption, and that's exactly what we have done here. We have the emails in something at something.something format, which is the traditional email format. And the reason we have applied this format is because your your analytics formulas, front-end application formulas that rely on ensuring that the data complies to specific format will still be able to work even with these encrypted values, right? And same principle is applied to SSN as well, right? So this is a view of a user that does not have access to sensitive information, right? Let's take a look at the other view of a user with privileged access. Again, the same view. I clicked on the left-hand side menu called Records. Now we are able to see all of the information in the clear text. And again, as I mentioned earlier, implementing features like this can be done in a few different ways. We can make a change within the application by obfuscating and manipulating the data within the application. But between these two instances, we were able to achieve what I just showed with a single line of code change within the application. And that's where the power lies. As we look at enabling applications with higher security standards and moving from on-prem to cloud in order to ensure that we have a consistent solution that does not take too much of time and effort to implement and provides that ability to scale up as we move more and more applications to cloud, a solution like this just makes sense. With that said, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take those. Or that was the demo that I wanted to show you, Todd.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And as you mentioned, here's the fun part of the webinar where our audience gets to ask both of you questions. And Dennis and Baron, if you don't mind, if you could go on camera for this portion, that would be greatly appreciated. So our attendees can see you both while the questions are being asked. And right off the bat, yeah, we have some questions that have hit the panel section. And Baron, looks like the first one is going to be for you. The question is this solution specific to healthcare, or can this product be used in the financial industry?
Thanks, Todd. Great question. No, this is an industry agnostic solution. It just so happened that our first client was a healthcare insurance organization. The technology concern we are solving is cross-cutting. It applies to different industries, different lines of businesses. So as such, it is not specific to a specific line of business. It just so happens that we are in conversation with a large financial institution to provide similar capability through this solution as well.
Okay, excellent. Dennis, it looks like you are up next. Is this the primary use case for open access? And is there a typical use case for DataDirect open access?
Yeah, that's a good question. Open access is very, very flexible. So we sometimes joke about it, like if you have 100 different companies using open access, you'll probably see 99 distinct use cases. I've seen it, some of the initial things I've seen with it were taking a backend that doesn't understand SQL and kind of creating an ODBC or JDBC driver that accepts SQL to the backend. I've seen people use it for like an archival solution where data might be in hot, cold, or warm storage, depending on how often it's required and how long it's since been archived. And what happens is the users don't really have to know where the data is. They just do a select statement, and basically the open access code will look up some kind of index where the data actually resides, which format of storage, and then go ahead and create the correct SQL to the appropriate destination. So I've seen people use it to migrate a database, like switching from like Oracle to Postgres, where the application itself doesn't have to be really aware of it since it's going through open access. But that said, what PruTech has done here, where they intercept SQL incoming, intercept the result set, outgoing, particularly around security, role-based access control. I would say that's actually a pretty popular thing we're seeing these days, maybe because of the kind of climate and security consciousness of things. So.
Makes complete sense. And I want to remind all of our attendees, we do have the question panel. There's only 2 more questions in the queue, so we definitely don't want to let these 2 off too easy with only 4 questions. So please submit your questions. It would be greatly appreciated. Looks like the next question, I believe this is for PruTech. What kind of access management policy information system can we integrate with your solution?
Yeah, great question, Todd. Again, the solution is built in a very modular fashion. So as such, we have a specific point, and I'm going a little bit in technical depth in this answer. There's a specific module that reaches out and retrieves those policies, access policies, so that we can enforce those policies as part of this encryption decryption process. Right now, for this first organization, we used a system that provides an API mechanism to retrieve those policies, but we are flexible as long as the access policy management system, identity access management system within an organization, within an environment, provides some kind of handshake and access to information. We can utilize that, be it API, be it some kind of JDBC ODBC connection. So we are flexible in that fashion, but any kind of system that allows integration through the retrieval of these policies, we should be able to work with those.
Okay, and it looks like we had a segue question to this. And you had mentioned a gateway, I believe, in your demo. Can this gateway work with Microsoft Windows servers? I'm pretty sure you answered that, but maybe review it again.
Yeah, no, the short answer is yes. The technology is built on Progress. The Progress open access server itself works with Windows. There is a Windows component to that. And then the solution that we have developed sits on top of open access server. So as such, the short answer is yes. Currently in the environment that we are in, where we're supporting this functionality for this client, the gateway itself runs on Linux, but there are a number of front-end applications that are built and are running on Microsoft technologies are currently being supported. So those are kind of 2 different flavors in which it can work, but the short answer is yes, we can support Windows.
Okay, great. Well, it's look, actually, we just had a question come through, so let me see here. What is the encryption technology used?
So most of the organizations have their central encryption tool, right, which has KMS and so on and so forth. Most organizations like to define their encryption mechanism and policies and tools in a central place, so that as data moves from one system to another, there's still high degree of confidence and continuity in being able to decrypt the data and make business sense of it. As such, secure database gateway does not encrypt the data itself. It relies on enterprise mechanism for encrypting and decrypting the data, right? So just like how we are reaching out and retrieving the enterprise access management policies, once we have those policies, once we understand what sensitive data we are working with, the tool then connects to your enterprise encryption system to encrypt and decrypt the data so that we can maintain consistency with other applications. In the scenario where we were, there were different third-party solutions for encryption, and the enterprise-approved technology solutions for encryption were used, right? So in this case, I'll just throw some names out. We work with Voltage. We work with even open source tools like Apache Ranger, and everything in between, right? But Gateway in itself does not encrypt the data. It relies on the enterprise encryption mechanism to do that.
Okay, Dennis, do you have any thoughts on that? I know that was a question for PruTech, but
no, I would agree. That's definitely the way to go. There are some great third-party tools out there. Typically, those are mandated by the security organization, for the company. So there's often not a lot of flexibility on that, but they'll almost always have a pretty easy way to invoke them. And I've definitely seen others do similar things.
Okay, great. Well, both of you, it looks like 5 was the magic number for this webinar as far as questions are concerned. Since we have a few minutes of time left in the webcast, final thoughts. Baron, any final thoughts you want to share with the audience before we sign off for the day? And Dennis as well, I'll have you go after Baron for that area.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, Todd. Thank you for the thank you to the Progress team for all the collaboration and help along the way. Just final thoughts from a product standpoint that I would like to throw out for our audiences. PruTech Solutions is an IT services organization. We have few products, but at the same time, we don't operate like a product company. So we like to think of these solutions as accelerators, which provide a capability in a specific way, but if that way doesn't fit within the context of what the next organization is trying to do, we are willing to go above and beyond and change the product definition slightly around how we can make that suitable and compatible to the next organization that we work with. So with that said, I think there are a lot of capabilities that are already there. But as this piques interest for anyone, please feel free to reach out so that we can further that conversation.
Okay, great. Dennis, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about the use case that we're talking about, as Bjorn said, if they tried to have the application make changes to enforce this, I mean, they'd still be working on it today. This was definitely a smart way to go. And since they built it on our technology, that's typically how Progress DataDirect works. We're really not building the end product, but we're building the kind of base, the connectivity, and more that others are using to build very successful products that provide a lot of value. So definitely enjoy working with PruTech on this, and like I say, this is a pretty popular kind of thing these days, and we're definitely happy to work with anyone, others too. Thanks.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, with that said, I want to thank both of you for your time on this webcast today. And I especially want to thank everyone that attended the webcast today. As mentioned at the very beginning, this webcast was recorded. We're going to send it to everyone that registered and attended this webcast for future viewing and sharing amongst those at your organization. And it doesn't end here. If you have any questions for either PruTech or DataDirect, we're more than available to answer your questions, and especially if you want to learn more about the solutions. With that, we're going to sign off today, and I wish everyone a great rest of the week, and thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.